Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today, we have a custom PC from 2008 on the bench, graciously donated by Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan, for donating this system to the channel. Now, I struggled a bit whether or not I was going to show this system on the channel. However, it did have the Windows XP professional sticker on the side of it, and it being from 2008 is definitely a late Windows XP machine. And 16 years, I mean, subjectively, retro, I would say it probably falls in the retro category. This machine was donated. I don't know what is inside this machine. We're going to find out all about this together and ask ourselves, is this the perfect Windows XP machine? You know what? We have lots to do. Let's get right to it. And welcome back. So I'm really excited to dig into this system and find out exactly what's inside of it. I looked in the back and it's chock full of ports, and we know how much we love ports on this channel. So we're going to go through all of this and do kind of an overview of this system. And, you see a lot of ivory cases and beige cases and things like that on this channel, but I thought we would take a little directional shift here because it did say Windows XP on the side of this computer. And I was a little shocked having Windows XP. Normally my Intel Core 2 Duo systems had Windows Vista or Windows 7 on them, depending on the age of the CPU. And so the fact that this is Windows XP Professional on it tells me, based on the environment or the requirements, that they needed that installed on this computer. So I figured, is this the best Windows XP system you can get? I mean, heck, we're going to find out as we go. So the first thing we have inside the system here is a Super Writemaster DVD multi-recorder Speed Plus. So it's obviously a multi-reader writer. Then we also have two additional bays here that are available for expansion, so 5.25 bays. We have our powered by Asus, so we have our website for Asus. I love anything to do with Asus, so it's going to be curious to see, is it the video card that's Asus, is it the motherboard that's Asus, etc. So we have to go through that. We have the Intel Core 2 Duo Inside processor. Again, I don't exactly know what that is in terms of the exact model of that CPU. We have a 3.5-inch floppy drive here. And, for a case like this, and what really attracts me to this is that it is a custom PC. And you never know what goodies you're going to find inside of a custom PC versus an OEM PC. So continuing on, it looks like we have some ventilation here, plus some design aesthetics. And in the front here, we have a couple of USB ports and a couple of front audio jacks as well. And, over the years, it was really handy when they had migrated a lot of that over to the front of the system so that when the tower is sitting on the floor or on your desk or in a peculiar area, you're not having to take it and shift it around to try to access the back I/O. You're able to do that directly from the front. So I do have the Windows XP Professional key blanked out here, and I've been asked several times, why do you do that? And again, just for reminding everybody who's watching this, because you can still register the Windows XP key, and I do that exactly on this channel. I take the key, I use it, I call their telephone service, and I activate it. So that way I'm not getting the nuisance, and if I want to do a future video with this system, I can. Okay, let's continue on. Let's go to the back. So there's our chock full of different ports and things we have on the back of this computer. So I love the thumb screws. I will say that all day long. I will love thumb screws. It's so much easier than having to utilize the screwdriver, specifically for the side panels when you're going in and out of the case. So on the top, we have our power supply. So our ATX power supply with our power connector as well as our switch. Okay, continuing on down here, we have two PS2 ports for our keyboard and mouse. Two USB ports. I believe it's probably USB 2 that's inside this system. We have an SP diff out for audio out. We do have two additional USB here, as well as a 1394 FireWire connection. So nice to have that built directly into the motherboard or onto the motherboard. And then we have two additional USB with a built-on NIC as well. And we have our 6 audio ports here, so expanded audio built on to the motherboard as well as a feature. So it's nice to see this full array of ports into this case. We do have a dedicated graphics card down here, as I just mentioned. We have our DVI, VGA, and S-Video TV out card here. So definitely a capable card. And the S-Video I used quite a bit back in the day. Not so much in this era in 2008. I would have used it in more of the earlier cards back then. Other than that, I just used the DVI port. And then we have what looks like another 1394 connection here as well, just different form factor. And of course, we have the eSATA or external SATA connector, which is very handy for hooking up external hard disks at high rates of transfer rates. So nice to see that as well. Specifically, when you're considering that you can hook up an external SSD to this and have additional data transfer through that. But so it's nice to see that as well. Additional to that, we have 2 COM ports, so not 1, but 2. So it looks like it's a breakout card of some sort. So we're going to be interested to see how this is connected inside the system, but nice to always have those COM ports for various devices that you're connecting to and peripherals and things like that. And of course, we still have, at this era, we do have the LPT printer port, parallel port. So yeah, I mean, overall, it's a huge arrangement of ports. And that's why I say, is this the perfect Windows XP machine? Thinking back to the day, if this was my XP machine, would this be everything that I would need to run and then more? And, between the 1394 FireWire, dedicated graphics, you have your external SATA connection, you have your COM ports, your parallel ports, you have all the legacy stuff going on while you have a lot of the newer stuff at the time. So definitely nice to see. In addition to that, we have a lot of extra ventilation in the back here. That's a nice thing about these custom cases. You have lots of options for ventilation. Okay, carrying on to the other side. So again, we just have a bunch of different ventilation ports on this case on the side. And then we also have, it looks like a couple screws that are here. These ones are filled in, but these are definitely screws that you can remove. And it looks like, I don't know if there's something in behind here. Normally these have these like kind of wind tunnels for the CPU behind these. Sometimes you have fans attached to them, not sure, but we'll see as we go. Okay, and overall, I mean, the case itself is in perfect condition. There's absolutely no scratches. Yes, there's some dust and dirt on it, but there's no scratches that I can see on it. I'm hoping that all the displays, lights work and all that stuff, but overall, it's looking very, very nice. All right, let's flip it back around and take the side of the case off. And we will do a kind of a change in camera view here to see down inside this computer. And here we are inside the tower with a chock full of goodie system. I mean, it is just populated with a whole bunch of good stuff here. And the condition is absolutely amazing. I mean, in terms of dirt and dust, I'm seeing minimal to none in here. I mean, even touching all the surfaces, anything that would have dust on them, it's just a very fine layer. I mean, it was definitely in a nice controlled environment wherever this was. For our power supply here, I'm showing a 550 watt ATX power supply, so nice to have. It's made by Codegen, Codegen, not exactly sure of the brand. Outside of that, I was told that the system was working absolutely just fine before it was donated to me. So it's not like a lot of these systems I get from e-waste that you never know the condition of some of these systems. So then over here, we have our optical drive, which is connecting via our SATA connectivity. We also have our Intel branded cooler here, which is nice to see. So that would have been stock or part of the package for the processor itself. I do like the cable management that's done inside this system. Looks like a couple of these things were added after the fact, but if you look at the main components here, we have the nice braided cable here going into the power supply, the power connector itself. We also have it looks like a 8-pin connector going to the motherboard over here as well, supplying additional power to the motherboard and the CPU, etc., etc. So it's nice to see that going back here and all nice and cable tied. And then we also have an array of cables, power cables. So we have our Molex connectors and everything sitting up inside this bay over here. And then down here, we have our floppy disk here connected. It is utilizing, it's nice to see that it does have a floppy disk here of the, back in the time, even in 2008. And I say that because, having that, floppy disk ability back then, again, having the compatibility and asking ourselves, is this the perfect XP machine? and having all that legacy stuff, including the floppy, is just continuing to add to this mix. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the floppy cable here, and we're going to look at the various cards that are in this system as well. First thing I'm going to do is remove the video card here. So we have a video card. What is this video card? It is a lead tech, so you see it right there. It's a PX9400 GT with 512 megabytes of DDR2 memory, 128-bit. So it does look like, again, we have the various connectors here to hook up the outputs. But look at that heatsink. I mean, quite a bit of heatsink, and utilizing the tubular type of heat dissipation method here with kind of like a manifold or a grate here to dissipate that heat. So it's nice to see that. And I'm not sure if this is related to the NVIDIA card, being a 9400 GT possibly, based on that. So I'll post on the screen here a picture of the manufacturer along with the information on this video card. But I would say that's pretty darn good video card to have, just to find in this system. We have, it looks like a breakout cable or kind of a connector in the panel in the back here. So it looks like it has that SATA connector. That's the eSATA, which is directly connected to the motherboard, of course. The motherboard also has many other. It has two more connectors here, no doubt for front or rear additional USB, because we already have a USB cable and our sound going to the motherboard connectors, various motherboard headers on the motherboard. So it's nice to see all that already connected, all in here and still intact, because it is a D serial PCI 550/650, and it's by Lava Computers, so it's a Lava card, and it does have the two COM ports there. So, I mean, adding that functionality, again, is adding to the whole mix of this being a perfect Windows XP machine. So let's open up the last one here. Let's just take it over to the system. It's PCI as well, and there we are. So, I mean, what would you expect, right? I mean, having two Lava type cards, PCI cards, expansion cards, and this is our parallel PCI card as well. So it's nice to see that in the system. Okay, continuing on here, let's take a look at the board. So the board is an Asus P5Q motherboard. I'm just going to move that cable a little more. So we have an Asus P5Q motherboard, and just look at the size of that motherboard. It's taking up the entire case with so much expansion. We have 4 slots for memory. We do have 1, 2, 3 populated. I believe it's DDR2 memory that's installed in this computer. And continuing on down here, I'm seeing our PCI 16X lane here, and we have PCI 1X here. So we have 2 of those. So we have 3 PCIe connections here, and then we also have 3 PCI connections as well. So it is nice seeing the array of interfaces on this motherboard. And the other thing I am seeing down here, which is just making me absolutely happy, is I am seeing a breakout, a side connector here going on an angle to IDE. So it does have an IDE port down here, this red connector that's down here. So it is absolutely amazing to have both floppy, IDE, SATA, PCI 16 and 1X, and regular PCI all on one motherboard, supporting 4 memory slots, and just so much expansion possibility in this system. And no doubt, I mean, I do see 2 hard disks in here. I'm not sure if this system will boot. Like I said, I was told that this system was working just fine before I got it, but the fact that it has 2 in here is possible that this is rated as well. That would add another layer of awesomeness to the system with having a RAID, so you'd have your redundancy built in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it all back together here. We're just going to put the cards back in now that we've kind of given an overview of the system. And I'm just going to put in the cards, and then we'll put them down, put them inside. There we are. Okay, so I have all our cards reinstalled back into the system. I didn't touch any of the hard disks here. I didn't touch any of the cabling. I'm not really feeling the need. I was thinking about it earlier about potentially doing, a cleaning of this system. I mean, but everybody has seen me do that many times on the channel. And, quite frankly, this system doesn't seem to be that dirty outside of maybe the exterior needs to be wiped down, which is perfectly fine. I think we are good to go in terms of firing this up and seeing if we can get this system up and running. So you know what? Let's get the bench all reoriented here and see if we can get this computer up and running. Okay, and here we are all ready to fire up the system. So I'm just using the HP monitor for now, and I'm saying for now because I would like to see a widescreen monitor here set up to take advantage of, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking if I want to make this a truly dedicated Windows XP machine, specifically for gaming and things like that, I would definitely want a different type of monitor, but we're just looking at getting the system set up for now. So we have the monitor set up and we have the computer, of course. Then we also have, I'm just using my PS2 IBM keyboard and mouse just to fit this setup for now. All right, let's turn the power on and see what happens. We have power, red light for our hard disk. Okay, so we have WinFast PX9400 GT with 512 megabytes of memory. Copyright 1996 to 2008 NVIDIA. Okay, that's our video card. Intel Core 2 Duo CPU E7300 at 2.66 gigahertz. So nice to see that in this system. And then I'm continuing to look through here. We have the ability to run setup. We have the F8 for the BBS pop-up. We have press Alt F2 to execute Asus Easy Flash 2. So nice to see that option to be able to flash your BIOS. Our memory is DDR2, so that's correct. 667 in dual channel asymmetric mode. Initializing USB controllers is done. So everything's looking good so far. Let's just let it count the memory up. And how much memory do we have in this? It looks like 3 gigs of memory. No, 4 gigs of memory. Okay. And it is booting. Yeah, okay. So we have a working system, everybody. I'm just going to restart the computer here real quickly and we'll go into the BIOS just to take a look and see what it looks like. Okay, so we're in our BIOS setup right now, and so our system date and time look absolutely correct. So that coin cell battery that's installed there is working just fine, so it's nice to see that. We have our legacy diskette, so again, having the motherboard to support that's amazing, so that's enabled, and our language is English currently. So we have storage configuration, so according to this, it's set up as RAID. So it does have hardware RAID, which is nice, which does answer the question of the 2 hard disks that are installed in this computer. So our write disk protect is disabled, so it's nice the feature you can enable that. Okay, we'll escape out of that for now, and system information. So there we are. We have our BIOS version 15.01, and I believe that is the latest version. I'll have to go back online to Asus website to make sure to see if that's the latest. And we have our CPU information here, which is our E7300 at 2.66 gigahertz and our 4 gigs of memory. Okay, and we have AI Tweaker. So configure system performance settings. So right now it's currently set to auto. I'm gonna go to manual and just see what it gives me. Yeah, okay. So we have our CPU ratio setting, which you can go in and configure, and our front side bus frequency and PCIe frequency. So this is really for tweaking the different speeds on your motherboard for, you know, potentially overclocking or getting different performance. I mean, that's why it's talking about the performance here. So I'm going to select that back to auto for now because we're not looking at tweaking any of that at the moment. But it's nice that you can go in here and select different variables to be able to do different configurations specifically for overclocking the system. But yeah, it's just really cool to be able to see this and you be able to go in and change all the voltages. It really gives you a lot of control over your system, which is nice compared to some of the other chipsets and systems and boards that you'd be able to get. So again, is this a perfect XP system? So far, so good. And then onboard system devices configuration. So our HD audio is enabled, which is fine because we don't have a dedicated audio card at this time. And then we have our front panel is HD audio, so you can theoretically turn that on or off. And we also have our SPDIF out as well, which is on the back. But again, you can disable these resources if you want. And of course, we have all the wonderful other items here. We have our 1394 FireWire. We have our LAN, all those good things there as well as the resources. Same thing with USB configuration. So it is USB 2 as we can see here, and we have the ability to go in and change all this. Plus it does support legacy legacy USB. I'm loving everything I'm seeing here. Everything is screaming. I can install Windows 7 on here. I could put Vista on here. I can install Windows 10 on here. I would say the same and install all this. But at the same token, I have the hardware supporting such a wide range of OSs, or even, dare I say, a Linux distro could go on here, and this full system with this hardware could have no problem running all of these great things. So yeah, I'm very happy to see all this in the system. So under power, I usually leave this stuff alone, but I'm going to go down the hardware monitor for a moment. The hardware monitor is showing the CPU temperature at 27 degrees Celsius, which is just fine. Our motherboard temperature running at 33. Our fan speed at 1700 RPM, which is actually running quite low at the moment, but it's nice to see that. And then we have different fans that we could install as well, different monitors. So there are headers on the motherboard to install different chassis fans here as well, but of course they're not installed currently. And then we have our voltages, which are all installed here, which look just fine. Okay, all right, so that looks good. And under our boot, we have our priorities. So we have our RAID volume first and our CD-ROM, and then theoretically we could tell it to run from a floppy disk drive. We're not doing that right now. We don't need that enabled, but it's nice to have the ability to do that if you wanted to. So under our boot settings configuration, we have our quick boot, which is disabled. So right now it allows you to go through, but you could disable it or enable it to allow you to go through the test faster. Of course, we have our full screen logo. That would probably no doubt display the Asus logo on the screen and the motherboard type, etc. And of course, you have other functions as well. Under our tools, we have Asus EasyFlash 2, ExpressGate. I'm not exactly sure what that is 100%. Asus overclocking profile, I imagine. Okay, so you could actually save and load profiles based on configurations that you save or change your overclocking profile. So if you go in specifically and change the CPU or change the RAM configurations or the Northbridge configurations and all the different memory settings, you could save it so that if you wanted to tweak different settings or run the system in different modes based on what you want to do, you could save them here. I think that's pretty darn cool. All right, so I'm feeling pretty good about this so far. So let's see if the computer will keep on going here. So we're gonna hit exit and discard changes. I don't think I made any changes, but I wanna be absolutely sure I didn't do anything there. And discard configuration changes, exit now. We'll hit OK, and we'll see if this actually boots into anything. I was told the system works, but I'm not exactly sure if outside of the sticker on the side, if it does boot into anything else. The hard disks are giving me some promise. And oh, we have Windows XP. So yeah, so this is correct. So we have Windows XP installed on this computer with the matching the sticker there. So that's really, really awesome. Okay, so far so good. And yeah, I mean, let's get right into the desktop. Okay, and here we are to the Windows desktop, and yeah, it's quite interesting to see here. It says data protection activated. Your system data protection is active in normal state. Your data is currently protected from a single hard drive failure. So that's pretty awesome to see. And yeah, that's the Intel Matrix storage console here. It says here, all hard drives and volumes are okay. So port 0 and port 4. For additional configuration details, use the advanced mode view. All right. Okay, so it does show that our array is here, and it does show our 2 hard disks. By the looks of things, let's click on our array here. So we do have a RAID 1 setup, currently set for 500 gigabytes. And I am showing a Seagate if my memory serves in terms of model information, and also a Western Digital, both 500 gigabyte drives. So it's nice to see that we do have that installed. And yeah, having a RAID in a system like this, even if it's Windows XP, even if it was home-based, is really good practice, considering saving your data from any sort of corruption. Okay, so we just have a generic user account set up here. I'm going to go under the my computer here and go into properties, and we'll take a look at everything. So it says here Windows XP Professional Service Pack 3 registered to ... We have our Intel Core 2 Duo setup here with our 2.66 gigahertz, our E7300. So we have 3.25 gigabytes of memory showing in Windows XP, when I imagine you would need the 64-bit version of XP to show more than that. Okay, under our hardware, we'll go under Device Manager and take a look around. So under our display adapters, we are showing the NVIDIA GeForce 9400 GT. Nice to have the dedicated graphics in this system. And then under our DVD CD-ROM drives, that's our super multi-drive here as well. Under our 1394, we do have the host controller installed. Network adapters, we have our 1394 adapter, but we also have our Atheros, I believe that's how you say it, PCIe Ethernet controller that's built into the motherboard. And we have our ports, so many ports. We have our D serial ports, or port A and port B under COM 3 and 4. And of course our LPT port here, the PCI LPT port for parallel, which is awesome. Our processors, there's our CPU, our dual CPU, Core 2 Duo CPU installed. SCSI and RAID controllers, so we have that installed. It's nice to have that Intel installed directly into the motherboard. So a really great chipset installed in this Asus motherboard, on this Asus motherboard. So it's nice to see. And under our sound card shows that we have our legacy audio drivers, and it's Realtek. Okay, so Realtek's not terrible, but I mean, there's nothing stopping us from installing, say, a Sound Blaster Live card, which is a PCI card. And Sound Blaster Live cards are no slouch, that's for sure. And of course, we have our USB, tons of USB stuff installed in this computer. So yeah, I mean, in terms of a donated system, this is pretty darn awesome. For next steps, I think definitely it'd be worth doing a proper cleanup of this computer. I mean, there's not a lot of dust inside, so I'm not too worried about the inside, but doing a nice wash down of this computer, getting it all sorted out, and possibly installing the Sound Blaster Live card, because I have a few of those laying around, so it'd be nice to get that installed. And potentially, you know, do we go with a different graphics card in this computer? You know, we have the NVIDIA GeForce 9400 GT here, but, you know, is it something worth doing? I mean, if I'm saying that this computer is the perfect Windows XP machine so that you can use this for Windows XP gaming, you know, is it worth doing something like this? Is installing a GeForce GTX 700? You know, that's something that, you know, does come with the Windows XP graphics drivers for this system. So, you know, is it worth doing, or, you know, is this just too much hardware for this computer, or is there another video card that I could potentially utilize in this system? You know, I'm interested in all your comments down below as to what we should do with this computer. Well, I'm gonna have some fun with this system right now and try out a couple games just to make sure that the system's up and running, and can definitely test it a little bit. Let's go.
You have taken the lead.
This ensures our goal of providing away-from-home experience for everyone. Keep this in mind as you help us pursue our groundbreaking research that is destined to transform the daily lives of everyone here and throughout the solar system.
Mars City is a smoke-free facility. Please smoke only in designated areas. Thank you for your cooperation.
Because there seems to be some very serious problems.
Listen, Scotty, I've done this 1,000,000 times. It's not that hard.
Why don't you crawl your fat ass down here and do it yourself?
Can you make this guy not keep
any of these machines running?
Yes, sir. It's just that the science team demands a lot out of these things.
Enough excuses. Just do your job and get the science team what they need.
Well, I'm doing everything, but I...
All clear. Position under control. Okay, I need a ride.
Walk up to the ladder to climb.
And here we are at the end of the video, and I'm absolutely ecstatic to have this system in the collection. It's an absolute beast of a computer. I mean, it covers a wide range of years you could do, even arguably up to today, with installing Windows 7, 10, or even a Linux distro on this to get this online. I mean, look, this computer is a Core 2 Duo running 2.6 gigahertz. We have 4 gigs of RAM, which is expandable, and it can also be reduced depending on what you want to do with this computer. You have your 1394 connection FireWire, you have your eSATA, your parallel, your serial ports in the back. You have your 500 gig rated hard disk for your redundancy. You have the NVIDIA 9400. You have the DVD capabilities. You have the IDE and the floppy legacy connectors on the inside. You have your PCI 16 and 1X connections running alongside that PCI connectivity as well on this motherboard. I can go on, but I can say that this system is absolutely jam-packed, and I, again, would say it's the perfect Windows XP machine, allowing you to play and test out different hardware, different software, different games, and a wide variety of years that came out for this type of hardware that's compatible either way. And it's absolutely great to see. I only played a couple titles, did some exploring of this computer, but heck, this computer was donated, didn't cost anything on the channel, great to have. Now you tell me what we should do with this system. It definitely needs a little bit of a cleanup, but do we take this and leave it as is, as the perfect XP system, and use it for that reason and take it out when we need, or do we actually do something else with this? Do we upgrade that to 7? Do we upgrade it to 10? Do we put a different Linux distro on this? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm excited to hear from every one of you and see what we could potentially do with this, or maybe we leave the system as is and let it keep on enjoying 16-year-old system that is running wonderful Windows XP and is just a great, well-rounded system. That said, if you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Makes a world of difference, helps the channel grow. Hit the notification button, change it to all. You'll be notified of new content such as this. Please leave a comment down below. Like I mentioned, let me know what we should do with this system. Should we keep it, or should we upgrade it to a potentially different operating system and see what it's like running newer stuff today? Let me know. I always love responding to every one of your comments. Love the interaction on the channel. Always making new content. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.